Hello everybody, it's Mike. Welcome back to the channel where we are going to work on the next step of our build. So this journey is pretty exciting for many reasons. One is I've met so many people the past few years that are newer to the hobby, and I've also been in like Halloween, like Lamax Village groups and Department 56 groups where I get a lot of questions around the train aspect of it because they build these incredible villages and incredible towns and cities, and they don't gear it around trains like I do. And they're like, how do you do the trains? So I thought I'd start, it's going to be remedial for some of you, but I thought I'd start with, hey, we've got the table built, our temporary layout. If you guys want to catch up with where we are in this series, go back a few around the table build. So now we have the table built, and now it's deciding on what track I want to use and what I'm going to use for a power plant. And the track determination is based on, do I want something that I need to attach to my layout? Do I want something that can be put up and taken down really easily? Do I want something that looks a little bit more realistic with road bed built in? Do I want to do track and then lay road bed and glue the track to the table because I'm always going to use the same tables? So many options, right? And then power plant, is the power, are you going to be powering conventional trains like post-war that don't need fast blow circuit breakers? Or are you going to be running something with sound and electronics like a Lion Chief Plus, MTH Proto 2, Proto 3, Proto 1, Lionel, TMCC with Rail Sounds 5, Legacy. So what is going to be on your rails? Because I know a lot of people that just do layouts at the holidays, they don't have this wide variety of stuff. They have like a favorite engine, maybe two favorite engines. They have a hand-me-down that came from grandpa or dad, or a friend of the family, or Uncle John, and they want to see that running around the rails at Christmas or on a temporary layout that they just do occasionally. And what kind of power should we be using? So let's start there. So first, let's start at what should the power plant be? Well, I've got two different things out here. So I have one of my favorite post-war transformers. Oh, this thing smells so awesome. I love the smell of post-war transformers. They just have, anything post-war has a very distinct, cool smell to it. Reminds me of being at grandpa's, running his trains. Hasn't changed in 40-something years. So this is a 125 watt Lionel. The smell of this thing, the glow of it when it lights up is amazing. Takes you back to the 1940s, I think. Not real sure on this guy, but I know it's old. I'm sure some of you that watch these videos would know exactly what year this came out. I am not a post-war expert. I just know what I like. So this thing is cool. This would run one train if I was using something like my post-war Lionel 2020. This would be a great setup, no problem. Now, if I want to run this Lionel Lionmaster Challenger, no, cannot do it. It would make it go, but it could potentially burn up the board if it runs into an issue. And the electronics just aren't quite the same as what you would get in a modern transformer. And believe me, I love that transformer, and I love my ZW275. Thing is awesome. Just moving the throttle back and forward, the warm glow of the lights on that thing is phenomenal, but it has its place, and it's not running an expensive locomotive with some electronics in it, right? So some people do put a fast blow circuit breaker and still try to use those, but I would say if you know that your only engines are modern, then don't buy a post-war transformer. Buy something, this transformer in front of me here is a MTH Z4000. This is my transformer of choice. This is what I use to power my main layout and what I've switched to for most of my modern stuff. Although last Christmas and last Halloween layout, I was using my ZW275. I burned up my Halloween Sounds boxcar because it derailed and smoked. I'm so sad. I love that thing. I'm going to buy another one. Anyway, do yourself a favor and get like a Z1000, a Z750, depending on the size of what you're running by MTH, or like the Lionel CW80. I think it's all self-contained 80-watt transformer, separate bell and whistle buttons, or like the Lionel 180 brick with the controller. It's like $269. They still make those as a good solution for your locomotives to be protected. Or, you know, if you're running Lionel Lion Chief, it just has a little power adapter and you're always safe on those because they'll always have their own remote and they can always just run on those power adapters, which is sort of nice. So there's your power aspect of it. Now let's pick out what kind of track. So we're going to run the Z4000. We're going to have, most likely, I've got this loop of 036 down right now. I'm thinking about changing it up. I can't decide. I mean, it runs anything that we're going to be running, but I usually would like to use like a 042 Atlas. Lionel's next step up is 048, which isn't going to fit on our table. So 036 and 031, 027 are what I'm sort of limited to based on the table being 4 foot wide in Lionel Fast Track. And Lionel Fast Track is what is down here. The drawback to Lionel, there's a couple. So you hear one of them right now. So the Lionel Fast Track can be really loud. So if you are wanting to put your layout in an area where there's a TV, or where there's conversations going on at the holidays, the kids aren't going to be very happy, and you may not be very happy if everyone else is telling you turn your trains off because they are just too loud. So that's one of the drawbacks to the Fast Track. And then the other drawback is over time, if you're not careful, the tabs break off. And then sometimes the rails don't meet perfectly flush. They'll have like a high spot and you'll hear your cars and engines going over it and it makes an extra click sound. But the plus is it is pretty durable. It has its own road bed built in, so it's stable for carpet, hardwood floors, tabletops. You don't have to fasten it down if you don't want to. So really flexible for putting down and taking back up. Then the next kind of track that has a road bed built in that you can still pick up is, this is what Christian and I started with. This is MTH Real Tracks. The first set I bought in back in 2000 was a ready to run set that came with this kind of track. And it was solid rail, which was a little bit more difficult to work with. The track was really rigid. The rail was really rigid. This is really easy to take apart. You just give it a little pressure. And, you know, the only thing you want to make sure you don't ever do is pull it straight apart and mess up these tabs, which provide the connection on your rails. And then it just snaps back together. And typically these fit really good. I mean, you don't have any problem with it being flush from one piece of track to another. And the color is usually pretty consistent. That was another drawback on Lionel. Some are light gray, some are dark gray. So I sometimes sit there and paint the edges of it because it makes me crazy with different shades of Lionel Fast Track spread throughout, depending on, I don't know what causes that. But if we went around the whole layout, you'd probably see 4 different colors of fast track. So that's the MTH real tracks. Then, feeling nostalgic, this is always a good option. So you can still buy this brand new at Menards. It's your old school tubular track. This happens to be Lionel when it was being produced in China. That's your most affordable way to get some track, is with the tubular. And this is old Lionel Made in America tubular. I love how this looks. It's nice and dark. I cleaned it up. This was really rusty at one point. This is what I used on my last Halloween and Christmas layout, along with some of the newer stuff. So tubular, the only thing is it has a lot of give. So sometimes it gets out of round. Sometimes your connections aren't always solid. This is best when it's like screwed into a wooden tabletop. But I see people put this on a board and then put it around their tree as their solution for their Christmas tree, and keep around the tree layout and keeping it all nice tight together so it doesn't come apart. But I love this. It's awesome because this just is the epitome of what Lionel trains started out with. And if you're into toy trains, not just prototypical, this stuff, the nostalgia is cool. Hearing the train running on it is cool. And I will never not have some tubular track in my life. Next, let's get into more scale looking track that you could either fasten straight to a tabletop, you could use without fastening to a tabletop, or you could add roadbed and give it a very realistic look if you're always going to use the same base for your layout every year. So we will start with some K-Line. K-Line, out of business, but they made some great track if you can still find it. It has a tubular rail look with a black center rail and railroad ties, and then little holes to stick a nail through into the foam top to hold it from moving. Then you have your Ross and Gargraves type track, which its claim to fame is wooden ties. So yeah, you have wooden railroad ties, just like the real deal. Blackened out center rail, and it's pins, so these will never break. The connections are usually pretty solid, and you can replace the pins if they get bent. And you can cut it to size if there's something weird you need to do. It's really easy to work with. That's an advantage, and it looks good. So Ross and Gargraves, your wooden type. Then MTH scale tracks. So I don't think MTH is making this anymore. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. But its cool factor was the ties are pretty realistic, and the center rail is super thin. So pretty easy to put together and take apart. Really lightweight. But I don't know about its longevity because I've never used this a whole lot. I have it and I've used it, but not where I've put together a layout and taken it apart several times of this track, so I don't know its longevity. Excuse me. And not sure how hard it will be to continue finding it, as you know, every time I see it come up for sale, it sells pretty fast. So it is cool. Maybe someone will bring it back. Then the last kind of track that I favor over everything is the Atlas track. Very good reason why this is my favorite is I started in HO as a kid with Atlas track, never any problems. Then I moved into N scale as an adult, and my first house was so small I had to go down to N. Atlas track. And then when I got into O and started exploring maybe doing an outside track or what's the most durable track, everything pointed to Atlas, which I was pleased. what I like most about Atlas is you can put it together, pull it apart as many times as you want. Just use those rail clips, and you can just squeeze the rail clips back together if they get loose, or for a whopping $5, you can get a package of like 48 or something to get new ones that are nice and, you know, tight for when you're making your connections. So super easy to work with. It is true to the truest extent, meaning everything butts up perfectly. You have the same gaps. The track is always the same level. I've never seen it be a high spot in Atlas track. And it is made so well, it can be outside, and it's weatherproof. I've never seen what the sun does to ties. I've never tried it to see what it does over time. Excuse me. But so far, I've loved Atlas. And the only drawback would be if you're running a post-war engine with magnet traction, or any engine with magnet traction, the magnet traction doesn't work on these rails. So if you're going up an incline, trying to pull a bunch of cars, probably going to have a post-war engine just spin out. But for modern engines or running post-war on a flat surface, you're not going to have any issues. So, and it's super easy to get some foam road bed that if you wanted to make it permanent, you could put down a road bed, a little bit of glue, foam glue onto the foam top, then set your track, put ballast down with a mix of Elmer's glue and water, becomes like concrete, and that track is not ever coming up again unless you pry it up. Otherwise, I have just stuck little track nails through the holes and stuck it into the foam with just a little bit of hot glue just to hold it in place. And then when I'm done, it comes right up, and you just got to pull the nail back out and pull the hot glue off. So Atlas has been really flexible, and it looks great, and it performs great, and it's really quiet for the trains to run on. So that is our segment on, you know, what power to use for our project here, and what kind of track are we going to use. So are we going to end up with the fast track, since I already have that down and I can paint on it and make it all kinds of different cool looking for the Halloween layout, or will I switch over to Atlas so I can do a loop of 042? We will see in the next video. Until then, I hope everyone's having a great Sunday. Hope everyone's enjoying this series. And thank you for all the comments. We're now over 2,000 subscribers. And keeping on going. So, loving what we do in this model railroading, toy train, Christmas village, Halloween village, whatever project you want to make out of your railroad. It's just so fun. So I hope you all are enjoying it and doing something train related today. And I will see you next time.